Welcome back to MVM. Today we have a review. This one is for a game releasing at Essen. It's called Raiatea. It is 2 to 4 players, and it is from Quined Games. It is kind of an action selection game.
Yeah, and it's a cool premise. You are secret religious leaders on the Polynesian island of Raiatea.
Yeah.
Basically competing to have the best priesthood and to worship your god better than all the other sects.
And we hope that we pronounce everything correct because there's a lot of terminology in this game.
There is a lot.
We did a little bit of research, but there are some weird names in here. So, as you said, we are these Polynesian religious society leaders. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to gain victory points and gain kind of stardom within this community. Mm-hmm. To do so, we're going to be taking actions on this board. Now, if you guys have played games like San Juan or even one we just reviewed called Ceylon, you're going to take one of these 6 actions on the board, and then everyone else also gets to take actions on that same tile that you do. However, the player that takes the main action is called the kahuna, and they get kind of a bonus from taking that particular action. The game is going to be played over an X number of rounds, depending upon the number of players. Now, it may look like we only have 2 players set up. It's because we didn't put the other player screens up, but we actually have a 4-player game set up here. And to do so, you're going to give each of these players these secret screens, which are going to hide their ritual cards, which are cards they're going to be casting to do specific spells, so to speak, through the course of the game. You're going to hide all of your pearls and all of your mana, which is kind of the commodity or the resources within the game as well.
Yeah, there's a secret bidding mechanic built into the game, so you kind of want to make sure nobody knows exactly how much money you have at any given time.
As I said, the length of the game is going to be determined by the number of players, but also there's going to be 2 different types of rounds within the game. You have your main action rounds, which are represented by these yellow circles, and then you're going to have ceremony rounds, which are rituals that are going to take place that do something completely different than the action rounds themselves. So you're going to be going through these different phases within the game.
And the action phases are there so you can build up the resources and things you need to complete those ceremony rounds.
When you look at the game board, as I said, you have the 6 different tiles that people are going to be selecting through the course of the game. These are the actions that you're going to be selecting. You have the priest track. This is going to influence a couple different things. There are 3 different ceremonies in the game that you will be competing for Teo missions. I believe that's the way you pronounce them. They're these giant, colossal statues, and each of these missions requires different kinds of requirements, either that you have to give up to the supplier or just have behind your bank. And each of these are worth either 1, 2, or 3 victory points, depending upon the round.
And they get exponentially more difficult by the 3rd ceremony round.
Then you also have a market. This is kind of a commodities market. This is going to go up and down depending on whether you give resources to the market that's over here, or if you take resources from the market. And again, this is going to go up and down, allowing you to gain benefits when you contribute or take things out. All right, so how does the game actually play? And we're just going to have a quick overview because there's a lot of things going on in this
There's
game.
a lot, and there's multiple steps to everything you do, but we can just give a very basic rundown of what the actions are.
So to start, everyone's going to get one of these player screens. As we said, each player is going to gain one of these rituals. There's 2 kinds of rituals. You have the basic rituals, which are white on the back side, and then you have forbidden rituals, and you can only gain those by having placement higher up on the tattoo track, which is kind of its own little engine that you're going to be building through the course of the game. So each player is going to get a handful of these, and you're going to be able to keep one of them. You're also going to get some mana and some pearls that go behind your player screen, and each player is also going to be given 1 mask. As you see on the table that we have out here, there's a couple different types of cards. You have assistants, which are going to help you do things through the course of the game.
That's right.
You have your 4 different types of commodities, which are these 4 different columns that you see here, which are going to refer to that market. And then you have masks. Masks do a variety of different things.
Yeah, and they are, first of all, your in-game scoring condition.
Yeah.
Every mask has a different scoring condition on the card. Plus, when you take a mask, you get a bonus just that's printed on there. So you know what you're getting, and you also know what you're building towards for the end of the game.
To play the game, it's very simple. You're going to look and see what round you're in. Right now we're in the first round. This means it's an action round. Starting with the first player, they're going to take one of these 6 tiles that you see here. When you take a tile, you're going to look at them. They all look primarily the same. They're kind of a drawing across the top. They're going to show a kahuna symbol, meaning that player, that's the bonus that player gets to take, being the kahuna or the player that took the tile. And then the bonus that everyone else is going to get.
And the kahuna as well.
And the kahuna as
well. The
well.
kahuna gets both parts of the card, which is pretty cool.
So we'll talk about each of these because this is kind of the meat of the game. The first one that you see here is the pearl market. So the pearls allow the kahuna to gain 3 pearls just directly from the bank behind their player screen. Then he's going to roll this 4-sided die, and whatever it comes upon, every player at the table, including himself, is also going to get that many pearls as well.
All right, so the Kahuna is always getting 3 more pearls than anyone else.
That's the simplest thing to explain. That's the easiest tile to explain in all of them.
Yeah, let me talk about the forest action.
Sure.
The forest action refers to this row of cards here. And one thing we didn't mention, when you roll this die could potentially trigger assistance that you have in front of you.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that after we talk about actions. That's kind of its own subset of the whole game.
Yeah.
But the forest action, after you roll the die, you just look at this row of forest cards and you're going to draft them in order, starting with the Kahuna. Once everyone goes around and drafts, you'll refill the market and then draft again in reverse order, again, starting with the Kahuna. So everybody gets 2 cards, but the Kahuna is going to get the best pick of the forest every time. Cards that aren't picked just go back up to that market and kind of refill that market.
So these cards, again, consist of all the 3 different types of things in the market. Anytime you collect a mask, it's going to go in front of your player screen so everyone can see the type of mask that you're trying to collect and what you're trying to do for your end game. Any of the commodities, which are the green cards, are going to go behind your player screen because these are going to be used to trigger things later on in the game.
Yeah, complete objectives, missions, or trade into the market.
And then the assistants are going to go in front of your screen as well. Again, these assistants are going to allow you to do special things throughout the course of the game. There's 4 different types of assistants that all do different things according to these top 4 cards. However, the more assistants you have of a particular type are generally going to help you perform those actions at a better rate.
They'll trigger better the more you have of them, yeah, for sure.
So swinging down here, the next one is the priests. And what you see right here is the Kahuna player gets a free priest on this track, and they're simply going to progress their marker around in this semicircle. Everyone else, including that player, is also allowed to buy priests. You can buy 1 priest for 2 pearls or 2 priests for 5 pearls. And these are going to allow you, again, to gain benefits through the course of the game.
Yeah, based on where your priests are, it's going to trigger certain cards are going to be able to be played. You're going to get certain benefits and mana for just having more priests.
Yep. Right, what's next?
Yeah, the next one is this community action. This community action lets you trade masks with other players. Like we said earlier, masks are going to score you in-game victory points. If you have 2 of the exact same mask, meaning a matching pair, you're going to get more victory points. So you want to try to match your masks. So this action lets every player, starting with the Kahuna, first return a mask to the market, and then it comes back around, starting with the Kahuna again, everyone gets to take a mask from the market. So we might be looking across the table at each other and notice that we have mismatched masks, so we could try to take advantage of that and pair up.
Yep.
Also, the Kahuna gets to freely complete one of these missions if they have the right resources or cards to turn in for it.
All right, the next one here is the market. The market, the Kahuna player gets to take both of these actions twice. That's the benefit of this one. The market allows you to sell things to the market, and when you sell them, you get the bonus of anything, of the commodity that you're trying to sell, what's below it or what's underneath that marker and what's below it is what I'm trying to say here. Again, this market's going to fluctuate up and down depending on whether or not you sell or buy things from the market itself. Also, the players get to have the option of buying 1 assistant for 2 pearls. This is the market that you see here. There's a variety of different assistants. They're all going to provide you with benefits for taking very specific actions through the course of the game. And again, the player that picks this one gets to do that twice.
Yeah, every assistant kind of has like a passive ability that just triggers whenever the die is rolled. They also have a once per game ability where they can basically be tapped out and used to trigger like a really powerful ability.
All right, and the last one.
Yeah, the last action is the tattoo shop, which has an actual name. I can't pronounce it. But if you're familiar with Polynesian culture, these tattoos, that was huge of importance to them.
You see right here on the box.
Yeah, and as they would get more tattoos, it signified strength and honor within the tribe.
Right.
And so you have the tattoo track here. This lets you pay a commodity to go up the tattoo track. You'll notice certain levels on this tattoo track. As you reach these points, you'll get better abilities. And you'll also get to take that ability right when you reach it.
Right.
If you can reach the very top, you get victory points, and whoever's at the top at the end of the game is going to get more victory points as well.
Yep, and then in and of itself, all those different breaks within the tattoo track are worth victory points. The higher you climb, the more points you're getting.
You talked earlier about the ritual cards, how there are regular rituals and forbidden rituals. You have to have your tattoo marker up past those different levels in order to even gain access to those forbidden rituals.
And you're going to want to gain those because once all the players have picked one of these tiles, that's going to signify the end of that action round. You may have another action round right after that in which you're just going to reintroduce the tiles back. You're going to pass that first player marker over to the player clockwise to them, and you're going to go through those actions again, picking one of those tiles and taking the bonus. However, anytime you get to one of these ceremony tracks, you're going to do a very specific string of phases. These are located right here on the board itself, numbered 1 all the way through 6. And they're printed on here too, so you can visibly see what these actions are. These ceremonies is completely different than the action round itself. So take a break from everything you've known.
Yeah.
You're going to learn something completely different. During this phase, 6 steps. The first step is just like the priest step down here. It gives everyone in clockwise order an option to buy more priests at that time, using pearls, of course, to do so.
Yeah, and so like I said, priests are going to signify a bunch of different things. Then the next thing you can do is buy ritual cards. You can pay 3 mana, which you'll take from behind your player board, and you'll add it to this ritual bag that comes with the game. Mana that people pay for different things throughout the game is going to be added to this bag, and you're going to have a nice supply of mana here by the end. But you pay your mana, you can draw some cards, choose one to keep, and you'll have the ability to play that ritual card.
Again, the cards that you're going to draw depend upon how high on that tattoo track you go. So the higher you go, not only the more cards you're going to be able to draw from and choose one of those cards, but the better cards. You can go from just basic rituals to forbidden rituals, which are really powerful in the game. The next thing that you can possibly do is you are going to take the cards, the mana cards that you have, and you're going to clip them possibly if you so wish. So everyone's provided with these clips that you see here. When you clip them, you're signifying that this ritual is the ritual that you wish to cast. You're going to take those rituals, up to 3 of them, or actually up to the number that you are on the ritual track or the tattoo track itself. You're going to place them into the bag. Now, this may seem weird, but this is a pretty cool portion of the game.
Yeah, these are going to come back into play in a minute here, yeah. Well, once that's done, everybody gets to bid on ritual order.
Yeah.
So this next part of the ceremony action is the most important part, and it's done in a very specific player order. Everybody takes however much mana they wish to bid, kind of puts it out into the middle of the table in a blind bid. You don't know what anyone else is doing. Everyone flips, and based on how much mana you bid, you rearrange your cube order here. Now, all that mana is going to be put into this bag, and it's going to be used to power rituals here in a minute. But as you rearrange these cubes on the track, the first player gets to pick a bonus, second player gets to pick what's left, and third player is stuck with whatever's last. Fourth and fifth player just don't get anything. So.
Exactly. Then what's going to happen is the ritual phase itself. You're going to pull out all the mana and all of the ritual cards that the players decided that they want to cast. You're going to lay them in ascending order from 0 all the way up to the highest number. If there's a tie in the numbers of the cards that are placed out, it's going to be broken by the ceremony track that you see here. So you can choose when your ritual takes place. The rituals are going to be powered by the mana that's also inside of that bag. So it's completely up to the players to decide how much mana they want to put in there, which rituals they want to put up there, because they're going to be powered from lowest to highest, because there's a very good chance that the higher level spell, which are typically your stronger spells, aren't going to be cast in that particular round.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So you'll see a lineup kind of like this, and you start to go through and you just check, can I afford it? For example, this costs nothing, so this effect will go off. Whoever the green player is will get whatever benefit is on here. Now, some of these rituals can affect everyone equally. Some can grant you a bonus. Some can penalize other players, in which case you get to choose somebody to kind of mess with their strategy a little bit. And then it just moves on. If you have enough mana to play all the cards, you do, but chances are you're not going to have enough, especially when you get up to some of these cards that cost 7 or 10, or more, and those rituals are just lost.
Yeah, all the cards that are used are going to be thrown into a discard pile, except the blue cards. These are cards that are typically going to give you end of the game scoring of some sort. All the clips are going to come back to the players, and then the final thing that's going to happen here is you are going to be able to complete these Teo missions according to the ceremonial track that you would bid on during Phase 4. Each player has the ability to complete one and only one of these missions, and all these things are asking you to give up certain kinds of commodities, certain types of resources, mana, or pearls back to the bank in order to collect these tiles. They're going to stay back behind your player board, but they're going to give you 1, 2, or 3 victory points through the course of the game. And this isn't the only way to complete the missions. There's other cards in the game, or spells, or rituals that allow you to
and one of the player actions you could take lets you complete them. But this is a huge source of victory points. So you want to make sure that you try to complete as many as you can. And then after you finish that ritual round, it'll show you on the board to start flipping over the next level, so you can start to plan ahead and see what you're going to need for the next ceremony round.
And you're basically going to complete action round after action round, or go between the ceremony rounds and the action rounds until you get to the final round of the game. And then you're going to score up your victory points.
Yeah.
Victory points are scored from 4 main categories. The first, of course, is the tattoos. Depending on how high you progress on that tattoo track, equals the number of victory points that you're going to get.
Yeah, and then you're going to score points for all those missions you completed. These are going to be hidden behind your player board, so no one knows exactly how many points you have until you reveal them at the end of the game.
You can also score for all of your masks. Every single one of these masks has their own potential way to score victory points. There's a lot of different masks in here, but you also gain additional victory points if you're able to pair up similar style of masks. And there's a whole variety of those in there.
Yeah, and the last thing you're going to score for is any of the ritual cards that you might have played that have stayed in front of you.
Yep.
Some of those are going to trigger in-game scoring for you as well.
So that is Raiatea. What do you think?
So I definitely have thoughts. I mean, this game seems like one that would be right up our alley. I mean, it's definitely a Euro. It's definitely heavy. There's a lot of cool, unique things like with the bag building and with the way the tattoo track works. It's some really neat things I've not seen before.
Yeah.
However, when it comes out to actually playing the game, it is very fiddly.
It can feel that way for sure, especially with the ritual cards. As you get into those ritual cards, there's a lot of them. And I know you had a complaint about that sheet.
There's a double-sided sheet of what all the rituals do that you're going to be referencing constantly. I mean, every time you draw up to 5 ritual cards and choose one. So you're looking through the sheet trying to find which 5 cards you have to try to figure out which 5
64
cards.
64 different ones.
Yeah, it's a crazy amount of ritual cards, which is cool. But I mean, man, for the first couple of games, you're going to have tons of AP while one player is sitting there trying to read, not only to understand what every one of those ritual cards do, but then to decide which one of those they actually want to keep.
I mean, I think that way as well. The bog down in the game comes in the ceremony round. The action rounds are actually really fast because there's basically an action on there. You take that action and you're done. Yeah. Do I want to buy priests? Yes or no? Do I want to collect pearls? Of course I do. Do I want one of these cards? Of course I do. Just pick a card, put it behind your screen or in front of your screen. So this portion of the game, the action rounds are fast. It's that ceremony round when you're having to pass that around and understand what these things do, and then try to figure out, well, how much mana do I want to pump in there?
Yeah.
And there's actually never a time in our games where, well, at least I didn't feel like there's a time where I couldn't get the spells or the rituals to be cast when I needed them to.
Yeah, there's a couple moments. I remember one moment in one game in particular where somebody played a ritual early on that then reversed the order and paid for the most expensive cards first.
I did that.
Yeah, I think you did that, which was kind of cool. But you're right, by the third ceremony round, you'll have so much mana, and mana doesn't do anything for you at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So you'll have so much mana that you can just bid all of your mana, make sure it gets in the bag, and then you're going to have no problem. Every ritual is going to get cast.
Yeah, now there is a alternate rule to that, which we have not played with, that says that during this portion, not the auction bidding part, which you can get around, but this portion here, the mana also goes in when you're collecting cards, collecting more ritual cards. You can keep those from going in, which also kind of stifles that bag. But you're absolutely right. If you have a lot of mana, if you're able to collect a lot of mana through the course of the game, you can pretty much get all your spells to go off. Now, on the other side of that is you're also getting the other
you're powering everyone's spells.
So everyone else's spells, especially ones that could hurt you, are going to be powered as well. So you have to watch for that.
Also, so when it comes to the assistance, deciding when to use that once per game ability.
I love that part.
I do like that, but it gets a little cumbersome, especially when you've got multiples of every kind of assistant in front of you, and determining when your assistants trigger. This game is not what I would call colorblind friendly exactly.
Yeah.
So you need to have to really remember which of those assistants is triggered from which card. I found myself often asking, wait a minute, which action was that? Which of my assistants? What did you roll on the die? Because if you roll a 4, I have to have 4 of that assistant to trigger that ability.
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of like double checking and looking back and trying to.
And what Ryan's mentioning there is when you take these top 4 actions, they all have a dice action on them too, meaning that every time you take this card, so if I take this card, for instance, I have to roll the die. What I roll could determine the actions of one of those 4 different assistants. So everyone around the table is looking to see if they want to power this assistance or if they have enough assistants to power it off the die that's rolled.
Right, and so then if everyone, then you're going to go around the table. So there are just moments in this game that bog it down. Now, that being said, if you have a group of players that have played this game a couple times together, I don't think I don't think you're going to bog down because everyone's going to know what they're looking for. They're going to know what they want. I still think you're going to have to constantly be referencing that ritual sheet.
With 64 different spells, you're going to have to look at that thing over and over. The other main complaint I had was this priest track. I felt like all of us by the end of the game had destroyed that track.
Yeah,
even by the fourth or the fifth action phase, we had all got to the highest point, and there was no use for it at that point anymore.
Yeah, I think it's an economy issue. Honestly, we all I don't know if maybe just the way we were playing, but we all had a ton of money. Like we were getting plenty of money. So when it came to paying for the priest, I think we all almost paid 5 to move a priest 2 spaces almost every single time. And so you're right, we were all at 9 priests by the end of the game, so it just didn't feel as much of a race because we were all able to complete it.
What did you like about the game?
Well, that being said, I mean, like I said earlier, there's a lot of really cool, unique things. I love the actual structure of the game. I like that there's the action phase informs the ceremony phase and kind of breaks the game up a little bit. The ceremony phase gives you a lot to do with everything you've been accumulating. And I like triggering those assistants at just the right time. Like there are some really satisfying moments where for example, one of them resets the market value of an item all the way to the top, and if somebody sells all theirs and tanks the price, you know, oh well, you flip it back over and get that top ability again. So there are definitely some satisfying combos and some engines you can build, and I really like building engines.
I also love the double phases within the game, the action phase and the ceremony phase, and how vastly different they are, how one can power the other and vice versa. I also love, and this is completely different from the gameplay itself, the visual style of this game. Like it's absolutely a beautiful looking game.
They captured the theme, I think, perfectly, and very authentic looking artwork, and very, I mean, you even look at the box cover, everything feels very authentic to the culture, which I think is a huge plus.
So, guys, that is Raiatea. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. It's 2 to 4 players. If you guys have any questions about the game, make them in the comments below. Subscribe to us, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and everything else that we do. And we will catch you guys next time.